Hello, how's it going? Hey there, James here with another video. I was talking with a friend of mine. I just got off the phone with about a few minutes ago, and I don't know if I made a video about this in the past, but and it was something really, it was alarming. He told me about the NAACP and these civil rights organizations and what they really stand for. It's supposed to be, usually it's for human rights, right? And it started out being, started out when black men and black women were getting discriminated with, on jobs and housing and different other banking and other different situations. And they were supposed to be a representation of going through the courts and trying to get justice and fighting for the rights of individuals. And they come to find out that over time, the NAACP and other like Urban League, it branch out to people's other groups of people. They branch out to the LGBT community, they branched out to the immigrant community, and they branching out, to basically white women, which is because women considered, along with other women, but mainly because mainly to come up under the so-called dominant society, which they figure is white male society. But during the times of the 60s and 70s, when they were integrated and they were fighting for civil rights, you hear much about you hear a lot about the NAACP. And they used to be in the beginning, in the early 19th, 20th century, they would fight for the rights of the upper, lower working class people. Now these days, the NAACP, it seems like the only thing they do in certain organizations, all they do is just seem like when something's really, unless something's like political on a whole grander scale, and it costs millions, and they can make millions and billions of dollars, or a case that's well publicized, it seems like that's all of a sudden you hear the NAACP. And my friend was talking about an incident that happened to him on the job, about him being a black man on this job, and he had a perfect working record, and there was some things going on with the company that they kind of did him wrong. They really did him wrong with a perfect working record. He never had any incidents on his job in the past. He's a good, productive citizen of society and things like that. And what he told me was when he went to go to the NAACP here in Ohio, and I think it's in Trumbull County, which is near Warren, Ohio. He called to see about the case, and my friend was really honest and said, "Hey, I'm not trying to make a name for myself, but I want other black people who go through what I've been through, I want to fight for their cause." And do you know that? And so when he got there, he said when he got to the headquarters, he said that there was a white guy that was running. Basically, it was mostly run by white people, and they had about 3 or 4 black people that they had in the office, which fine, and which I guess it is what it is. But what happened was, why does it shift from going from a black organization under a white, run by white, the domineering, liberal minded people? Is because back in, of course, you do the research story that basically it was set up by 4 white individuals that were they were Jewish people, that were Jews that were behind the NAACP. So black people never really when it comes to having an organization, they were always, someone pointed this out, they were always infiltrated by some type of organization. And and how was it infiltrated is that I'll give to your cause, but I have whatever I give to you, you have to go by my blueprint. And so that was the case during the time, and so that's how they're able to grow. Now, it started out with women, they were classified as minority. That means Hispanics, it means blacks, it means Asians, Arabs, and it's supposed to fall up under the title. And the white male dominates society. Anything that goes against, that owns the 7 resources, or head over the 7 resources. But what happened was the white dominant society was slick, because when it came to blacks, and this was your liberal blacks, this is what Malcolm X was talking about, and different other individuals, is that we would give it, but we're gonna put a clause that we can come back under the table. And one day I was meditating and I was thinking about that, and God pointed this out to me himself, to point out that the white male can still come back into the picture. Well, how is it that the white male can still come back into the picture? Well, when he opens sexuality up, all a white male can say that he's transgendering to a woman, or he's a gay white male, and he falls under the class of sexual orientation because it was labeled as civil rights. And that's when you hear it more. That's when the NAACP or these other organizations were put in a fight, even though it's a gay male, white male, it falls up under the same category. And so this was sexual orientation coming that, and it's how the way your certain organizations that you see moving with this political arena that you see right now with the BLM and other organizations, they have to be backed up, and that's backed up by organization. African Americans, black Americans never really had something of their own without being infiltrated. And it's always been just like, I heard on this African diaspora channel how the way, some people, how is it that, Africa, different parts of Africa had to infiltrate it. There had to be someone that looked like them that had to sell them out, because in order to gain something, because every other group have their own people. Every other group have their own organization. No matter the Arab Americans, no matter the Latino, consider Hispanics, East Asian Indians, different Asian groups like Chinese, Koreans, will fall up under the Asian community group, and they're run by Asians, and their organization is with Asians. Arab Americans with Arabs. When anybody's an Arab American, they're Palestinian, they're Lebanese, they're anything that have is with the Arabic speaking tongue. Tunisians with Libyans, Egyptians. If they consider Arabic speaking people, they got an Arabic American speaking. They fall up under the Arab Americans. And so the reason why black people saying we want something of our own, it seems like it's a guilt shame. Like, why do you want something of your own? Well, you already infiltrate. Well, these other groups of people out there have their own organization, and no one's infiltrating them. And they didn't, they're not. When you go into it and let's say there's Arabic speaking people and Arabic speaking, and they have let's say in the Arabic community throughout the United States. Depends on probably most of the East Coast, some West Coast. But you go, there's someone is that they may, even if they look white as I don't know what, but they're Arab. They connected to the Arab Americans, and you can see that, and they have their own businesses, no matter Lebanese or Turkish or something like that. that, and when you go there, you deal with the Arab American, and everybody in council with it, with the Arab Americans. And I don't know why is it, black people, why is it that African Americans, that when they try to establish their own, like other groups of people do, that they have to give in to other people. Why they have to be subjugated, and maybe someone has to infiltrate their organization. In which, if they want to have something for black owned, they should have black owned, and rightfully so, because the injustice is so done as far as these different avenues, as far as education, health, and banking systems and housing, and just certain arenas, schooling, and even when it comes to disciplinary, and it's always the African Americans is painted as the worst of every category, and sometimes it's like it's biased towards people who are African descent, and I just can't see why is that people who are African American get to a certain degree and just want to let other people infiltrate their organization. I just don't understand it. They'll let the LGBTQ infiltrate their organization, which the LGBTQ should have their own organization. And and if you, whether you black or whether you white, but if you make it just a sexual orientation community, then it should be just a sexual orientation community. But they don't do that in the Arab community. They don't do that pull that among the Asian American community, the Latino American. Even though that there's gay people in each and every ethnic group, there's someone is bisexual, transsexual, and things like that. But what is it about every time when African Americans do something, they use the front and the death, that publicity, like a George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. You clearly she was not, her partner was a man, she was a bisexual. Clearly George Floyd had a wife and kids, and so other people. But there have been cases after cases of people that were transgender people, men transition to women, women transition to men, that were labeled as women and men. That why is it that they didn't, that the BLM and the LGBT community rally on their behalf? Why did they push there? Why are they coming as straight black people? And this is what the black community said. Why is it that when they've been black, lesbian, gay, transgender, just as well as white, have died, have been murdered and stuff like that? But why is it that? And I think that this is what is probably angering the black community. The ones who are straight is kind of angering. Like, how can you keep paying the price, and let's be realistic. But you'll see the NAACP and the Urban League and all these other people step up if it's transgender. So basically, as a straight man and straight black female, and your kids are biologically ain't going that direction where they're confusion, and it's just go out to be. It's almost like no one wants to campaign on their behalf, but the ones who are already in that community, and it seems like when it comes to African Americans, that they infiltrate with that, and really black people who are paying the price in imprisonment and quality of life, as far as no one's asking them their sexuality, no one's being demographic about what their religious preference is, no one's asking an African American male, a male or female, but yet they being infiltrated, and they've been like the blood sacrifice of what's going on, whether it's death by citizen or death by law enforcement. But it seems like it keeps happening over and over. So really, there have to be a black-owned organization, And I understand, like, when when the guy, they ask him, well, how come it's just African Americans? And let's say, in fact, that they're not effing around coalition. Well, that makes sense because the man had enough sense enough to see that yeah, he seen this was knows that every organization that he see, that he said, hey, there's nothing only for black and black people, not by not using a division of, we're gonna separate you by your sexual orientation, your religious. They come together and understand, like, this is dealing with black people who wants to continually to be genetically keep producing their own into the earth, and systematically through commercials and things, you can see that they have took, and they have made good points, that they have dismembered the black family, and that was by design. And I mean, and I can understand why some black people feel that way, because it's you can see it, it's right in your face more than ever. If you ever, and this is a truth, when you see a commercial, you'll see a black male and a black female by themselves. And then when you look at a nuclear couple, you'll see a white male, a white female, and kids. Or you'll see a white male with a black female and kids. And then when you next time you see a black male, he's with another male, and they being a gay couple. They trying, and so they systematically working behind the scenes. And it's like, wow. So when you have someone like, a black-owned organization, that we black-owned, we want to be funded, we don't want to be infiltrated, we don't take no donations. I definitely see why, because they could get to control the narrative. And this is what we had this past summer. And it's not till getting back to the NAACP, when all of a sudden, when something makes the papers, like George Floyd, something make the papers like Breonna Taylor, mysteriously they pop up. I mean, I just think that's really something. And I'm like, wait a minute, how come you're not? But I have seen deaths in the past of people that were transgender, gay, lesbian, that I ain't never seen these people before. And there have been many cases. If you look online, you don't hear nothing about, they reaching about that some transgender black male or female having much as publicity. And I didn't even see Black Lives Matter, which that's what their whole goal was, to dismantle the nuclear family. That's the truth. That is just, we're just for our own, women only, and nuclearize the model of a man. And some people fell for it. Excuse me for 1 second. But to black people, probably, why can't we come together? Because the reason why you can't come together, because some people agree not to come together, and some people who are black or African American that look just like you. And when they get to position of education, they get to position of financial power, it's like, forget about the rest. Forget about the rest of those people. They ain't in my clique. They ain't in my household. That's the kind of mindset we have. So that's why some, black people, a good portion of won't come together. And they designed it that way. And no matter, so you think that, and it was something that when I thought about what my friend said, he said, "Hey, I'm not just doing it for myself, but doing it for the people that don't have a voice. The NAACP is not about the common black men and black women no more. They're not. I'm sorry to tell you that. They're not about the common black men, common black women. They have been infiltrated. And so when something come along in which you might have a strong case, even if it's strong, if your money ain't right, they're not coming to the fight. If there's not much publicity on it, then they say, well, we'll come and check on it. They ain't for you, black men and black women. They're not. You have no, like, it was like with the saying that I heard someone say, you have no friends. Now, among certain organizations, you don't have no friends. So you out there to fight. Everybody's fighting for everybody else. And even with this last political, even the representation, even though that there's a greater Latin American Hispanic caucus is there, that rightfully so should be fighting for the Hispanics because they represent the Hispanics, the English and bilingual community. But your own black people have sold in the black caucus. Yeah, they have sold you out, and it's really sad. And it's sad thing that they have teamed up with people who allow them to continue to destroy the poverty and destitute of black children in poor and ravished communities. They have sold, that's true, they have sold you out. The organizations have sold you out. There's no such thing. So therefore, that's why I understand why a Grandmaster Jay said it's for black men and black women and black child. Like the one guy said, straight black men, straight black women, and child. And he had to cut the one guy, and I understand why he did that. People are like, why the guy be like that? Because he knew that. I forgot he called his name I forgot his name, but he called himself the Irritated Genie. And I used to watch some of his things, and what he was saying is true. Is that he's not that he have empathy for his LGBT brothers and sisters who are black, who are gay, but he knew that they were going to be infiltrated by the LGBT community. Was going to use them as a crutch, but later on used the LGBT community, black women and black men who are lesbians and gays and bisexual, because it falls up on their sexuality. But yet, the greater hurt is going to be is really dismantling the black man and the black women female relationships and prevent future that. So they design it, and some of your organizations co-sign with it and it's commercialized on TV. And when I came down, I saw some people who are Hebrew brothers, and some people that were Pan-African. This point, they were right. You're like, man, there was a time I'm like, oh man, I think you're just being prejudiced. No, they come to find out they were right, because slowly but surely the nuclear family of the black men and black women in America is being dismantled, commercialized on TV. Every once in a while they'll show it, and then when they do, they'll be fuming. They'll make them little. They remember how it was when the Cosbys and different individuals like that. When you had UPN, they had all them black shows, and they showed comedy shows, but the positions of the male and the female, and the children were in school or in college, and they show young African Americans producing families and producing businesses. But but there's certain type of liberal agenda came in there and dismantled all that. And so right now, and I can understand why some black people feel like they ain't no really no black community, because it and then how they promote more dysfunction when they go on those talk shows, and then you have 4 black women saying that black men ain't worth the darn, and belittling them and things like that, and they don't even see that if you belittle the black male, you have no black community. And when a black male does that, he has no, you don't have no community. And slowly but surely, you're distinguishing. They were right. You're distinguishing your race. I mean, even though that there's other people who have issues in their racial category or background, but they're not making a grand spectacle, putting it on TV and social media and things like that. It is what it is. And they don't hold up the high regard. If you find a mate that's an opposite race, that's one thing. But you don't, that's your choice of who you marry, who you date. But you shouldn't, it's one thing you have a preference. But even if you have a preference, you should never put down your race. You should never do that. And that's the truth. I mean, I know there's certain things I may not agree with some black women do things, but when you sit down and think about it, you're destroying yourself. You are, and uplifting in other people. You don't not like yourself, and really, if you don't like yourself, you telling God that you don't want to be African American, you don't want to be black, you don't love yourself, because He's the one that brought you through the womb of your mother, from your father's seed. And this is hard to say it, but this is addressing to the ones who think like this. And I know not all black women and black men don't think like this, but the ones who do don't even realize that. God didn't make no mistake, because your complexion is dark and you have woolly hair and you have a thick lips and nose. He didn't make no mistake. He didn't make no mistake. He created you in that image for a reason. It's like He created the other people of the other races. But what happened is that you've been systematically programmed to not like yourself through commercials. And TV is and music is a powerful weapon on them. And then you probably wondering, what's with all the shootings of young rappers? Young men, black men ages 18 to 45. What's going on? Self-hatred. That's what it is. And this is what you got to do in order to sell your differences between one another. And they capitalize it. And the record companies, and everybody's making a buck off your death. Those young men deaf. Those young rappers that died during the shootings in different cities this past year, their families are not going to get nothing. And I mean, even though they were very inquisitive young men who had good artist ability, musical ability, but now in a poetic, they saying, but they use a poetic in a way that caused their own death and destruction. And therefore, if they left children, they have no father figure. And therefore, they're going to be raised most likely by women. If they're a male child, and they're going to take on the nature of the male child will take on the nature of a woman. That was designed too. And they designed that the female child the female girl just take on her own masculine side, and she don't need a male. But if she don't know how to balance that, then she can self-hate for yourself. You know, and so it goes back that all these organizations played a part of it. They played their part. They've been infiltrated for many years. Many NAACP, to get back to that, they all been infiltrated. Now you integrate it, because that's what they wanted. But other people weren't so much about integrated. They just wanted to be educated, and they can do for their own. They don't care much. Many don't care about being integrated. Many of these other people, because some of them can't really speak our language that well. All they good is about making that money and making that capital and being preserved and surviving, just like they did back in their own country. But in America, we're just made to integrate and made to desegregate and integrate into our own destruction. And basically, everything you was painted. I mean, even with the holiday, I didn't even know how deep it was. When you think about Christmas, and this is the truth, yeah, it's a national holiday. But when you look at the representation behind it, a man that plays himself like he's a godly figure to give to all the children. Look at the makeup of that man and what part of the world he came from. North Pole, which is over in some near Switzerland. So we know the demographic of what the people look like over there. And so we're geared to look as a God figure. So if they look to as a God figure, then we must don't then it's commercialized on TV as a God figure. And in certain religion, which is people call it Christianity, yeah, is looked as a certain way, to the point that you don't like yourself. You want to be like the other people. So you've been systematically trained. Just some people are like that. And you don't even know you're like that until you find out later on how much self-esteem you'll have for your own people. How long they were programming you. They're not like you people. And I had to learn, I didn't figure this out until like a few years ago. And so I had to kind of back away and really go into the black media section and had to be reacquainted with other black people to understand the culture where I come from is not an embarrassment. It's not what it represents. And like I said, you'd be surprised as a black man and a black woman, when you go to the museums, you'll find out and you see the accomplishments of someone that look like you. Not just what just been told, what's been given to you. You need to physically see the accomplishment, the hard work as this individual done that look like you. And you would come to the understanding of what. And even though when I made a reference about the African American Museum in Washington, D.C., not only did I see that, I seen the George Jefferson Memorial and George Washington Plantation. When you see something like that, you would understand why you're programmed from history to now. Because that's what, and then when you see the way the slave war they closed, and you see all the slave movies, you've been programmed that you should be, so you don't think highly of yourself because you come from a servant to the people. And then they put it in a doctrine years ago. Certain different groups say that you were part of the Hamite people. This is what they told you 30, 40 years ago. That you were a curse of the earth. And that the reason why when they call white supremacy, use that logic over you. The people control the religious system. They say that that's what you are. But it was a lie out of the pit of hell. And the reason why you have to see the self-destruction among our people is because it's been programmed. That's the truth. You're programmed not to like your skin. You're programmed not to like your culture. So when the media paints a picture, and I'm not excusing what the young men do, that when they cross the line, what they do is wrong, but it's the narrative that they paint. And they paint the black female as loud, obnoxious, and just out of control. So they got you thinking that all black women are like that, or they just kind of loose. And so some of these other men, some of them, that's what they want, and they just use you as a sexual fantasy. It's like they use the black men as a sexual fantasy. Some of them do, not all, but some do. It's all being programmed. You athletically, your talent. Musically, your talent. Artistically, you're in good entertainment. You get good entertainment in the bed. You get entertainment on the dance floor. You good at entertainment. That's what they see you. But there's another side of you that is a spiritual side that they do not want you to know about. That you come from greatness. You didn't just come from the cotton fields to the ghetto. No, you're great. No, there was greatness among your people. Just maybe some people's household was encouragement. Maybe in some inner city schools it wasn't encouraged, but there was greatness in you. You were programmed. And some people, unfortunately, that look like you, sold you out. They got their college education, they sold you out. They got their second organization, they sold you out. They look like you, they articulate, they make a grand finale when something is big and major, when it happened to a little black boy, a little black girl's blood being splattered in the streets, or being horrific death. But they know they sold out. They know that they just as well as they have made friends and family and bedfellows with the enemy, who cares nothing about you. This thing with the president, whether it was Biden or whether it was Trump, I made a video about this. It doesn't matter, because they both had an objective, incorrect opinion years ago about black people. In the beginning, one, Trump's father did evict black people from their homes. Yes, and they probably from their jobs. Yes, that's true, and he probably said a few things. But Biden legislated law. He legislated the law to put many of you in prison and jail. Your black men, your black boys, and put them in the sink to cut them off. So Trump didn't have the power back then. He didn't have the fortitude back then. So, but they make him seem like one against the other. But if you look at it, if you want to technically really look at it, people are going to interpret. They're racist. They're going to interpret no matter what, no matter if they're from the way to the left or they're from the way to the right. It don't matter how racist that they are. The point is that to maintain and control you as a people. You gotta control these blacks. They're getting out of control. How can we systematically control them? Put food deserts in their neighborhoods, alcohol, crack cocaine, maintain them. They paint the system up. And some of these organizations, they cool with it. It was never for you. And how many black men, innocent men, I mean, there's other races of men probably innocent too, but how many black men by the greater numbers are probably in jail? Could be black women, are doing time that other counterparts did the same thing, but didn't have to do a longer sentence that they did. Same crime, longer sentence. Where's the NAACP for that? If they for black people. So it comes back to this. Henry Clark was like, you have no friends. As a people, you have none. You have none even within your own race. Because as soon as they get the education, many of them want to dip and leave. And say, no, the other one need to pull up all their bootstrap, and they come from the same demographic area. They say, and they know that the system, and they sit on and agree with us. And maybe we just take the few less of them, keep the majority of them where they're at. We don't want too many of them thinkers to rise, because they're shiftless and lazy. They don't want anything out of life. That's what sometimes they will put this in some kids, some suburban teachers into the schools. They couldn't connect with the kids. Think that they knew, but they really didn't have the heart and love for those kids. Because if they didn't know their personal home situation, many of them wouldn't have dropped out or discouraged to drop out. Not everybody's your friend that look like you and someone that don't look like you. So it's very hard to find individuals. It's particularly for black boys and black girls to love them enough to keep them out of the grave and keep them out of the prisons. And sadly, even people that look like them don't even care. Can get their mansion and just keep on going, knowing that they know that destruction, that they're gonna think that they're gonna have a good on the other side with those other folks. This is what your Obamas did. America gave you a black president, but it was on their term. Everybody, we found the accomplishment. Yeah. They set for life. They're probably one of the few black families that set for life. While the majority of black families in America probably be way the immigrants, just even below the immigrants. And your organization don't care. They'll fight for those immigrants as they fight for you, which is supposed to be for the working class people. But you see what happened, and I bet you when Trump was trying to push some of these people from coming over the border, you had all these organizations popping up, even the Black Caucus teaming in. You had, they team up with the Latino brothers and other people too. The LGBT Jewish community stepped in. But you as a black race, whether you fade out, kill each other, murder each other in the street, in fact, decalculate each other, and just take a collective feel you. And so I get back to say this, you have no friends. You really, you really don't have no friends in the black community. Even organizations supposed to represent their people over 150 years ago was infiltrated, and they, unfortunately, and why is that? Because they made it take a certain percentage and be happy with what you got, and keep quiet. That's the reality of America. So, and I say, and they will continue to treat you as the bottom half. If you're African American, male, straight female, they'll continue to, they'll select a random. It's like a lottery. But the rest of us, no matter what, my friend found that out. They don't care. And even though he had a just case, it's not publicity enough. That's how it is. That's why I didn't get too excited about the election. Oh, Trump, oh, Biden cares. You're being manipulated. You're being manipulated. Family being manipulated. They don't even know. They never did any research on the truth. They've been programmed what they're told the truth. They never sit down and think and ask questions, and maybe if they had a phone or a computer, find out for themselves what's really going on. Who? Do you got some people to sell you out? Yes, you do. But you got people to sell you out on both sides of the tracks as far as political parties. That's why I ain't Democrat or Republican. I ain't falling for that. And I'm not feeling either way. Because whether it's Trump or whether it's Biden, if you're poor, you're going to get screwed one way or the other. If God ain't got his hand on it, you're going to get screwed. But this is distinguishing, not to disrespect other people or low working poor conditions, whether they're white, Hispanic, or nothing, but because I know they got their issues. It's just some is just as bad as ours. But particularly address this to the black community, no. This is self-hatred. And he was programmed that, or educate yourself, so we could have a bunch of educated people that are taught not to give back to their own, just to uplift themselves. You can be educated, but what good is it if the education that you learn have a benefit the people, the area where you come from? If you can't use it to benefit other people who you know has struggled, who you know has trouble, what benefit is going to do? But that's what's mean. We're programmed to think like that. We really are. We're socially programmed to think that someone give me $1 million, I must be better than the other black people. Someone give me I'm better than the other black people. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I might be in a certain position, but at the end of the day, I'm in the United States of America. No matter how educated I am, no matter I never, of course, never been in jail or prison. But at the end of the day, in this country, in the most integrated country in the world, one of them, ancestors have been here since the beginning of time. But the old spirit of racism will let you know every now and then you're going a little bit too high. And it's as far as you can go. If the Most High can't get you them barriers, man will block those barriers. It has to be the Most High that gets you through the barriers. And that's the reality. of this world. You ain't got favor with the Most High can get you in them kid. You ain't getting favor with man. I don't care how much. If they want you out there, if they want you in a seclusive circle, you can't. You have to. You have to be a good servant, even at a higher level. And most some African Americans are servants at a higher level, like in your Black Caucus. They're just hired servants, but it's the main Democratic Party. It's like the Republican Party said, we control what you think and what you say. You don't have a brain. You shouldn't think of your own. Your opinions you keep it to yourself. If you don't, you can lose your job. You can lose your status. And people don't want to lose that status. Even some people that come to this country, they're not going to fight and lose their status to fight for you. So, just sellouts everywhere you go. There you have it. But yeah, the solution is you have to design it and make it for your own. And prosper your own. And be like-minded among people who are like-minded. That's the solution. You got to find out and really talk with individuals who are like-minded, who look like you, who are like-minded, who stay in agreement with you, who are like-minded. Because some people can look like you and they're not like-minded. They're not like-minded at all. Can't have the same ethnic features as you. They're not like-minded at all. They could come from the same background as you and not like-minded at all. Could be the same religious domination in you. It's same, class like you, but not like-minded at all. Because if push come to shove, some people, when people get a little bit more than other people, that's when you find out their true side. So it goes back again. Black people don't have no. The average poor black person don't have no friend. Sometimes among their own. And sometimes will most likely destroy one another before they destroy any other people on the planet. Turn on against each other. That's a fact. That's a fact. So no, there's only a small extent of black people get it. Say, yeah, we gotta stick together. Let's see the whole thing is coming along. But the rest, no. They're two, one's to right, to left. And they don't even see the bigger picture that they both didn't like you at one point in time. They both didn't like you at one point in time, whether it was a Republican or Democrat. And then you around majority of white males that feel like they have the picture to say who's their favorite black. And if you're not one of their favorite blacks, you don't get into the club. And it would conflict with the ones that think that they do, then they gotta go through a conflict. This would happen even in secret certain societies, organizations. They didn't want blacks in their organization. One of them was Freemasons. They were Freemasons. That's why you have black Freemasons. But the white Freemasons, the head founder of the white Freemasons, didn't like blacks. In fact, he was a Klan member. Fact. And in fact, there was papers on it. But yet you have black Freemasons and they subjugated to white Freemasons. Because the white Freemasons own all the people in that organization, own all the major constructions. They own 7 resources. That's the truth. So, but it happens. But you have real life. But yeah, that's what it is. So you really, the only is going to be like-minded individuals. Going to be a handful of individuals who, so so that's reality. But yeah, you have no friends as a, and it's sad things that, because even though the strike, you look at the history, no matter going back to the past all the way to the present, we've always turned on each other. Yeah, as long as you turn on each other, no one gives a no one gives a darn. So anyway, yeah, but that's the truth about these organizations. And even though the, people who treat them as sacrifices, as blood, and it's always going to be like that, unfortunately. And they infiltrate. But one thing about the other ethnic groups, they ain't got to worry about that. No matter if it's religious reasons, sexual orientation reasons, or because they one thing they got a language, they got a culture, and that's why they're comfortable. And they cool. They have enough. When they put themselves together, and when they rally, somebody rally against them, they know how to rally up. They can put down what part of the world that they come from, because they know that they have a similar language. They know that they have a similar goal. They know that they have similar things, and they can do business and relate to one another, and even can speak each other's language. That's what I noticed too. All the groups I mentioned about earlier. And that's the truth. I don't know why we can't, and even some of our African counterparts can't. Some of them can't get it together. Like some African American, we can't get that together. Yeah, you're the most bottomless people among all the people on the planet, because that's how the way they view you. That's how the way they treat you when you work for them, and things these people do. And it's sad, but it's a reality. But and I think a lot of people, the reason why some people are ignorant, because they really don't take the time out and know and go find out for themselves who they are. And my advice to those who are like that is just pray for them, that somewhere along the line they will get it. Why they hate each other, why they hate their own skin, they hate their own features, they hate their own culture. Black culture, it's not a cursed culture. It's not. It's because the reason why you're made, because you live in an environment. The environment make you feel like you're there, even though you systematic spiritually, you're not connected to them. It's good to have allies or friends, true enough, but the reason why because you've been systematically programmed not to like your own people. And again, it goes back, if you don't like your own skin, you don't like your own culture, then you must, I feel people who think like that, act like that, feel like that, who demonstrate that, they have some deep rooted issues. Somebody have deeply affected them. And I made a video a while back about people who are in Hollywood who are lightening up their skin. Now I can understand Like I got a little skin irritation. Mine's got I got age spots. I totally get that. You got pimples or something like that, and you know you have to you get your face clear. But you got some people willing to bleach their skin, take off layers of their skin to be bright, to be near white. Tell me that's the most psychological thing. And it happened to a couple people. I mean, it happened to many people. They think that they get more success and work in Hollywood. They think that if they lighten themselves up, that the prejudice is not going to subside. You're going to be able to escape the racism because of prejudice. And they've been told they were black and they were dark and they were ugly for so long. It's sad. Really, really sad. But they were programmed to hate each other. That's something. And if you check on my page about beauty secrets, you'll see that. And also, some people, and I believe some people don't want to talk about this too, is that there's a spike in suicides behind it among black people, among black children now. We don't want to tell people that black people don't commit suicide. Oh, it's catching up, especially with the last 10, 15 years with this generation, because of racism, because it weighs on to mental health condition of our children. Yes, it does. So some of you, as adults, got through it, racism when we were children, prejudice and hurtful things. But no, and that video didn't get too many likes, but reality of it is, it's the truth. And I showed a video on my other video on that. Yeah, psychologically, it's taking young people out. Not to hate their own skin. Yep. Racism had stepped to make you think, why Jane say like you got nappy hair, you're dark, your ugly big lips. Wow. And they heard enough of that. You look like a certain type of animal, and they try to say it doesn't. Some kids, there's not enough black overall female and male models encouraging that they're beautiful as a person. There's not enough, because maybe as adults some of them struggle with it. That's why I understand why black people say you have to disengage and get among your own people and integrate and really do some research. You'll see, because all this psychological self-esteem, you not liking yourself, and some of us are strong to withstand it, but there's some of us ain't that strong that we could. Some people that do, and it affects you. Racism in this country has affected African Americans greatly at a higher rate than you can even imagine. The racism makes you paranoid, it makes you on guard, not trustworthy, and you're programmed. Then when you go to another part of the world, you think you've been programmed from America to think that it's your race. We've been programmed that way. That's the truth. And it's to some people who come to this country from different parts, they don't understand that. But systematically, this was generation programmed into African Americans, black people. Despite that, you can see black people on TV doing magnificent things, but racism still is the backbone of the ugly, general society of mind that they put over us. And you hear it in school, you hear it on your workplace, maybe where you live, work, and other incidents. Even someone who's the wrong individual who's representing the law. Yeah, it plays in all different dimensions. All different dimensions, ladies and gentlemen. So, and the only way to heal is, I can understand what some black people mean, they have to separate themselves. Because how will you get that system out of you is to be among your own who have pride, who have a good support system in themselves, because it does affect you. Believe it or not, it has affected the community, and it plays out in the music, it plays out in the attitude and in the environment you live in. That's purposely done. Plays out in your educational system. That's purposely done. And you were programmed not to like your skin. You were programmed to believe that you were a curse of the earth. You were programmed about this. People say, how is it possibly programmed? Through television, commercials. The black male gotta be lonely, separate, or gay now, or he's off his rocker. That's the truth. It's commercialized. You don't see it, but it really is. It's right there in front of your face. Yeah, you see it, but when the last time you see a black man, a black woman, a black family? Every once in a while you want a commercial, but every one at a commercial. But it's mostly now other people got to be put in the equation. So it makes it a psychological effect on your children, because they sit in front of the TV too. And that's why they have little inner issue going on, self-esteem issue going on. Some of them, not everybody, but some do. And then you program not like each other, call each other, roast each other out of the name. You learn that because you like I said earlier, you got nappy here, you're too dark, or you're too light, or you're too this or too that. All that was programmed through racism. All of it. Don't believe me? Watch. Just look around you. Just observe. And when you get older, one thing about when you get older, you didn't see things when you were young, but you see it playing out. When you get with the right, logic-minded people who see it, then you like, whoa! They open up your eyes and see that, yeah, I see what she talking about. People you dealt with crazy 10, 12 years ago, now you seeing what they're saying. We all can make a mistake, because some of us don't see things until later on. But when you look back, truth will come and remind you, yeah, what you've seen is correct. You may didn't see it back in 2007 or 1997, but you see it now. So I would encourage you to, sometimes if you have to do that, to only defeat the psychological racism, sometimes you have to step back and focus on. I can understand. I don't African spirituality, but I can understand why somebody would say that. But because basically understand who you are, build yourself up. Because once you understand yourself, in the first place in the book, before you read any book, black people, go to the Bible. This is your legacy. This is your heritage. And once you get to a certain level and ask the Most High, He'll reveal it. If I'm saying something incorrectly wrong, He'll reveal it. If I'm right, He'll reveal it too. But this is where your heritage is at. The Bible. Where your heritage at, your self-esteem will be there. It's not about religion. It's about relationship. It's not about, ain't about being Hebrew, Islam, or Christianity. Forget about that. Pick up the word and let the word wash you inside out. You'll see. Because I found my culture, my identity, in him, in there. That's what's wrong with us. We don't know our true identity. That's why some of us act out the way we do. They totally, just keep calling yourself that. Yeah, you're a bunch of niggas on the street. And it's like, wow, they niggas on the street. And that's all you ever, you ain't no nigga. You ain't no nigga or nigger. Why I say it like that? Because I know what they mean when they say nigga. It means you shitless and you lazy, you just what it is. When they put that out there 400 years ago, that's what it standard to be. But you go from but God don't call you this. God don't call you no nigga. God calls you his child. You ain't a thug. Black culture in America is not a thug. You didn't come from a slow, backward ass people. You come from a great people. You come from people that original people out of the Bible. That's damn what they told you. You were told that. But you're more to it. Go to the museums. Stay there. Go into the African American Museum. And I want you to stay there. If they open back up and just stay there, see the whole exhibit. Because once you sit there and you see those images of every those individuals in an African American museum, if you're a man or young lady or older man, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's horrific at the bottom, but look when you get to the top. It was the most horrific thing in history. And then you understand. Go to the Rock and Roll Hall Museum. You'll find out. It's right there in front of your face. You don't even know it. They know you, but you don't know. Some African American people don't know the greatness in themselves. It's the most powerful, positive message I've ever seen. You're not niggas. When you say that, you limit yourself. You limit yourself. God can't call you that. So why are you calling yourself that? Even if he was joking around with you, he wouldn't even say that. So why do you do that to one another? I hope this video get likes, because this is something that didn't need to be said. And the reason why you have death, because of things that you say. Remember it. In that book I point out, power is in the power of the tongue. Whatever you release, it manifests. People don't understand this. This was the message. Whatever you release in my video I've made in the past, it manifests. The stuff you see among the young men and young women now in your city is because stuff that was manifested. It's what they listen to. It's what they articulate. And put that, say that this is the culture. Wow. They program that culture in you. It's not your culture. It's not your culture. I'm trying to tell you, it's not your culture. Find your culture, black people. That's why I said them the places to go. So hope you take heed this know this video till next time, and start out being one thing, but hey, this had to be we had to be said. Till next time, y'all take care out there.